Thank you for joining us today on this wonderful Brazilian collaboration, 15 channels. So be sure to check each and every one of us. Stop by and say hello. We will all appreciate it. So now that we traveled together spiritually and mentally to Brazil, let me show you what I decided to make for this Brazilian collaboration. I decided to make black beans, white rice, and of course the picanha. I will show you the do's and the don'ts during this video. As you can see, I was able to pick up a couple ingredients from my local Brazilian store, and actually was trying to get a couple of pointers from the workers who work there who were actually Brazilian, but unfortunately because of language barrier I wasn't able to get any points or any tips. So basically, I have to say I love Brazil. One of my dream vacation would be to go to Brazil. That being said, I still had to do my research for this collaboration, and I decided to stick with what would work for me or something I always wanted to try to do. And I decided to do picanha. I figured try to keep it basic for this recipe. Now I decided to make black beans, and now this is not a Brazilian type bean. This is an inspired Brazilian black bean. So this is just a recipe that I came up with. Traditionally in Brazil, the black beans are cooked very slow and low with pork and beef. Mine was a shortcut since I used canned beans, and I also used smoked turkey instead of beef. Now, this was my first time ever making picanha, and I was so excited to do this because every time I see Brazilian food, I always see picanha in the skewers, and I really wanted to do that this time around. So what I did was, after doing my research, I learned that you have to kind of clean up the meat and clean up some of the fat, which I attempted to do. I've done better work, I have to admit. I've done brisket and cleaned out the fat pretty well, but this one was a little bit more challenging. But anyways, picanha comes from the cap or the coulette, which kind of lies above the sirloin and the rump area of the cow. It is very delicious, buttery texture and lean, but super beefy flavor. So you can see here, I almost forgot to score the fat on the meat. And then the other thing is I made a mistake. I cut with the grain when I wanted to cut against the grain so that I can put the picanha perfectly on the skewer, so that when you cut it, it is cutting against the grain and you get nice and smooth texture. And so I really forced myself because I realized that afterwards, and you'll see what I'll do later on, I really wanted the skewers to share that with you all. So I had to improvise. I kept my picanha seasoned very traditional with the rock salt that I got from the grocery store. Later on you will see that I couldn't help myself but to add a little butter and garlic. Now the butter and garlic is not traditional, but you guys all know I love garlic and I couldn't help myself. I tried these two different rock salt and I couldn't really tell the difference. But what I can tell you is that a little bit goes a long way, and those rock salts will definitely season your meat. During this collaboration, I also learned that Brazilians do enjoy their picanha picanha actually cut up as just actual steaks. So if you wanted just to have your picanha as actual steak, go ahead and cut with the grain so that when you're cutting your meat with your knife against the grain, you'll have that smooth texture. Traditional rice for Brazilian food, I found out that there's a lot of jasmine and a lot of basmati that was used. So my family loves jasmine, so we went with jasmine rice, kept it very basic and very traditional with onions and garlic. And you'll see here that I sauteed the onions and then I just blended the onions because my family can be picky about onions. So instead of them having, to pick the onions out or not eat everything, referring to my kids, I just sauteed it and blended it into the rice, and they didn't have any problems eating it. I let this marinate for 2 hours, and then right before I threw them on the grill, I let them set out 20 to 30 minutes. So I told you I had to improvise, and this is what I did. I couldn't help but to cut them still smaller and try to fit them into the skewers and make them into the picanha that you always see. I probably should have just cooked them the way they were into steaks, but like I mentioned, I really wanted to experience the whole picanha and the skewers together, just as you see in the Brazilian restaurants. So I had just had them into little bite-sized picanhas. It worked. I misspoke earlier. I said that I did butter and garlic, but what I did was olive oil and garlic. And so just be careful. I have a gas grill, and actually this looks a lot worse than it really was because it actually tasted really good and just the fat was kind of crusted on there, so the actual meat didn't really burn through. I personally like mine more on the well done side. I undercooked this, but that's okay. You can put it back on the grill or even microwave it, whatever is easiest for you. For test tasting, I tasted the one that were the best and the most well done, but cook them to your preference. We like them more on the well done side.
Ridiculous.
So tell me, what's your favorite Brazilian dish? How do you cook your Brazilian dish? And let me know who makes the best picanha you've ever had, whether it's a family member or at a restaurant. I want to thank everybody for your support. Thank you for watching. Make sure you check out each and every one of the collaboration channels. Everyone works very hard for this, to share this information with you all. I thank you. Take care. God bless. Be safe and be kind. You all should know that you all need to subscribe. Thanks so much.